Hello everyone. On this tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to create a simple meme generator using React. In the beginning, we have something similar to this. So what I did here was creating a React application using npx create React app with the name of my application. And I ran it using yarn install and yarn start. So the first thing we have when we do it, we have this boilerplate code right here. And I just made a small update in the message in the paragraph tag and I ran the project. After running it, I will be having available in localhost 3000, and we have something similar to this. Well, first thing we have to do here, in my example, I will be calling an external API, an external endpoint from a rapidapi.com. So I found a already existing API that I can use to generate these memes. So the first thing we're going to use here is something very simple, very basic in React that is called state. If you don't know what state is, I can give a very basic overview. So if we use React, we have some parts of it called hooks. And the first hook that I'll be using here is the use state. So I can autocomplete here and I can say that at the beginning, my hook will be empty. And the name for it, I want to call it meme and set meme. But what is it in the end? When we use use state, we have to import it from React. And what we do here internally, we return an array. And the first entry of the array is the place where we want to store our values. It's our state itself. And the second part is the function that I'm going to be calling whenever I want to update this first value. So different from what we do when we use simple variables that we can just assign, for example, const my var equals something as example. This is a simple assignment, but if I want to assign something to my state, I cannot do it like this. I should call setMeme and pass the value that I want to be using to store. So after doing that, what I have here in meme will be something. So this is just for explanation. After having it, I need to use my second hook. The second hook that I'll be using here is use effect. And I'll be also explaining when we have to use it. It's also something very basic in React. So this it is divided. The first part is a callback function. It's a function that I will be executing in a given moment. And the second part after the comma is the array of dependencies. This array of dependencies will include the values that I want to be using to trigger this callback function. For example, if I leave it empty, it is by default saying that I just want to run this function once, just when my application runs at the first time. So let's keep it like this because in our example, I just want to call this endpoint once. After having it like this, I will be also using fetch from JavaScript. And what fetch does, it goes to look for some data, some response from some specific endpoint or API that we want to consume, where we want to get our data from. So we will be using fetch here. I'll be using this endpoint from rapidapi.com. It's like a repository that has several different APIs that people can put here. You can even put your own API provided here so that other people can use it, and you can even charge them for that. Let's first understand what our API does. Well, this is documentation. I also can run some tests here just to see how it works. And I see that we have one endpoint get images. This is a get request. So if we open this drop-down option, we can also select the language that we are using. In my example, it's Node.js fetch. If I update it like this, I'll be getting the URL that I have to call, the options that I need to inform, and let's run it just to have one example. When we call these images, this is in the end the image that we'll be using for our meme. So in the first example, let's use something like Angry Dumbledore. So if I go to this other endpoint that we have here, it's also a GET request generate meme. We see that if I use fetch as well, I have to pass as query parameter the position, the text that I want for the given position, for up, for the bottom, which text I want, this meme here, which image I want to inform, the font size, and the font style or the font family. Well, let's first use this example just so that we can see how it goes. So inside the quotes, I will put the URL. And the second argument of this fetch function is the body itself of the request. So with a simple object, we can use the method we want. In my case, it will be get. And also we can include headers. In our example, it's mandatory to use headers so that we can pass the API keys, because when I want to use this API from Rapid API, I need to subscribe to it and create API keys that I'll be using. At first, it's like a freemium. It's free for the first 1,000 usage, 1,000 calls, and after that it's charged, but it's a very small amount. Well, I will be copy pasting here and explain. First, headers is X Rapid API key, so it's my API key. Second part is this host that I also can copy from the website. As you see, I have it here, the method and the headers. And after I do it, after I inform everything that I need here, I can even change, or it's static here, but I can change it to some dynamic test if I create some variables for it. But I'll be using here just like this for example. So here in top, I'll be putting something like, oh, you wanna, yeah, developer. And in the bottom of the image, I'll put some different tests. Tell me more about it. Well, and in the image can be this, we can keep this one for now. And after that, we test with other images as well. I can change my font size to 30 as the text is a little long. And okay, this is saying that we are going to get this, generate this in the endpoint. But after we call it, we need to store in our application so that we can use it here in the image below. After we call fetch, fetch returns a promise to us. So every time we return a promise, we need to use something in JavaScript that is a single wait. It's called a single wait. Or alternatively, we can use fetch, and after fetch, we put it like this then. And after the promise being resolved, what we get inside of them is also an arrow function, a callback function, with the response from the fetch. Well, we can put it as a response then, and write it as a function. And what I'm doing here, I'm going to take this response and convert it to blob, because in my case it's an image that comes in the response. And every time we work with this function blob, we are also saying that it's also promise. So what I need to do after I call blob is chaining another then. So because I also need to wait for the response of this dot blob. So after I have my blob here, also another function, I will open and close curly braces and do something here inside. Do you remember that I have my setMeme function? This is gonna be used now to set the value that I want to store inside my state meme. So I'm going to put as set I can finally set the state. Here is set meme, and inside of it I'm going to use exactly this one. URL comes in the global scope of window, so it's the same of calling window.url. I can just put a short URL dot create object URL, and this method for me, if I pass blob, it will return exactly the response I want to pass inside this state. If I close it here, all seems to be good. One improvement that we can make here, you see that we have this API key in plain text. It should not be like this if you are going to use this as a real application. Here is just for test purposes. A good practice that we can use here is taking this key and use .env variables. So we can call them by process.env. I will apply this suggestion. It's a good name for my API key. So if I copy this, name, I can create here in the root of my project a new file called .env. This file is not used in production, it's only for running locally and for hiding your secret, because your secret cannot go to GitHub or any other repository. If I want, I can use the same name, this React app rapid API key. I can paste it here, put equal sign, and I'm ready to use it. So after I create my .env file, when I save it and I access it here, I need to run again my application, so I will stop it and run yarn start again. I can refresh it, and it works as expected. So I have my meme generator. So you want to be a developer? Tell me more about it. You see that we have Angry Dumbledore here, because I updated it to be Angry Dumbledore, so it works as expected. We just need to make sure that after we use set meme, we have in the source of the image, the source equals to meme, that is my state, and the out as meme or any other value here. So just for explaining, every time I update my state, all this piece of code will run again. And in order to avoid calling the fetch API in a loop again and again, I use my use effect to say that I want to run only once. And that's pretty much it for today. I hope you have enjoyed this video, this small tutorial. Please leave the comments if you have any other suggestion for future videos or anything you would like to know. So thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing and leave a like in the video. Thanks for the support. See you next time.